Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Bike Walk Commission in 2026. Today's date is Monday, January 5th. The time is 6:04 p.m. And I will call the meeting to order. Joining us today, we have Commissioners Becca Stoll, Christina Randall, Brian A. Clark, Nicholas Pappas, Manny Salgado, along with Greg Pacelli, our staff person, and um, we do have a guest speaker tonight. Oh, and I see she's joined as well, Amy Watkins. Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight from Watch for Me CT. Okay. Next on our agenda, we are revising it a little bit to value Amy's time for joining us tonight. So we will start with public participation, and right after that, we'll go into Amy's brief presentation or our brief overview. But before that, so if there are any, oh, and I see Elizabeth Sile, thank you for joining us as well, Commissioners, also here tonight. Okay, with all that said, if there are any members of the public joining us tonight that would like to share anything or introduce themselves, I see we have some new members of the public joining us tonight. Please raise your hand and Simon will give you the ability to speak.
I don't believe there are any people at this time.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Then we will move on to our next agenda item, which is introducing Amy Watkins. Welcome, and I'll hand it off to you to talk about your work with Watch for Me CT.
Hello, thanks for having me. Good to see you all. So I'm on the call because Jim Travers gave me a call, and we had a meeting to to talk about what Watch for Me can do to support the town and specifically this group in kind of expanding some of your efforts, what kinds of things you're interested in. So what Watch for Me CT is a Connecticut Department of Transportation funded program that is aimed at bike and pedestrian safety. So we're an education program. So we don't have grants for street improvements, but we educate around street improvements. So like an example of something we might do is if people were installing, I know like in Norwalk, you were switching to some concurrent signaling. And so we created some social media tiles and some other things to help people understand what that means. Like what is the new configuration? When do I have to yield? So although we don't do like direct things like coming to a town and fixing their streets, we do a lot around educating around that. What are options for keeping bikes and peds safe? What are some of the best practices? How do you best explain this to a lay person who is like, why are you doing a road diet on my street? So we work with, when I say we, it's myself and my coworker Anna. We're housed at Connecticut Children's Medical Center because the medical center has an injury prevention center. So we do, even though it's the children's hospital, we do the whole state, we do all ages, and we do a number of injury prevention topics, one of them being road safety. So our goal is to bring down the numbers of fatalities and injuries among bicyclists and pedestrians. And one of the ways we do that is by working closely with towns and helping them, whether it's working with a commission like yours, working with a local bike ped advocacy group, working with the town officials. We've worked with police. We've worked with all kinds of people to see how we can match up what we do with what you need. And all of our services are totally free. We're paid for by a grant from the DOT, so we don't want anything. We're just two people who I've been doing this for 8 years now, and this is what we do all day is we try to figure out how do we get the information in the hands of people in the community so that we can save lives. So whether that's outreach to your school system, if it's doing walk audits, if it's educating a community or a neighborhood about a traffic improvement option, whether it's creating social media things that you can use. We have a really amazing design team that we contract with. And one of the things we've done for some town, actually many towns, is we help them identify what the biggest behavioral issues are that they have seen and that they want addressed. For example, speeding, running red lights, things like that. And we would create social media tiles that can be co-branded with the city seal, or the ones we did for concurrent signalings had I Love Norwalk across the bottom. And we basically create and package those for you to disseminate on your social media channels. So really, what Jim wanted me to do was to just kind of introduce who we are. And so we don't really have a presentation planned, if you couldn't tell. But to see what things you all might benefit from working with us. Is there any way that we can help you? For other towns, we put together we call them safety education plans, and they involve, from the conversation we develop those. Do you want us in person doing a community outreach event? Do you want us to come and do a walk audit? Do you want us to create social media posts? We do many different things too. You don't have to pick just one thing. So I think, he sees a lot of value in this group, and he heard, he knows from I had met him way back when he was in Stanford, and he was in New Haven. And I know he cares a lot about bringing these numbers down and saving lives and preventing injury. And so he said, do you want to hop on this call? See what priorities you all have, see if you want to work together on anything, and kind of go from there. So that's why I'm here. I want to listen to a lot of what your thoughts and concerns are. Years ago, I came down to Norwalk and met with the commission, and we've been down there. We've done a bunch of activities with like the school system. We've done a bunch of things. We did like a bike helmet giveaway there. So I'm familiar with Norwalk. They've been on my radar for a long time. And various people have come forward and wanted our help. And we've worked together for the duration they've been employed or involved in your bike walk efforts. So we just want to kind of extend that and see if there's anything that we can do as an agency, as an organization, to help you reach your goals, at least as far as education around safety. So questions, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about, the biggest issues that you're seeing.
Well, we have an education subcommittee, so I feel like this would actually be very helpful for us, because I think we're, for this new year, we're trying to get our footing and like how to accomplish some of the things that we discussed at the end of basically at the end of this past year. And so I'm just trying to think of like how we can utilize you as a resource for these things. And so my initial thought is like, would you ever want to join on a call with our subcommittee to discuss, like here's what we're thinking, or here's what direction our subcommittee is going, and like how can we use you as a resource for those things. I like a big one is education in the schools. We do bike, walk, and roll, which I know you guys have, and you all, I'm sorry, have done in the past as well. And then I don't know, just creating a greater presence, I think, with like education throughout different pockets of the community. I know for me, um, sometimes I think people, I mean, outside of the school education system, I think people don't know what's happening with different infrastructure projects, and I think they are just not like they don't know where to even go sometimes. And so, how can we, as an education subcommittee, even move the dial on that a little more? And I know sometimes we've thought about videos in the past, but that also that can be a really long process. So maybe if you all have resources like that for like green lanes or that sort of thing.
Yeah, actually, Jim had said that there is you do have a budget, and he was also interested in videos, and that's something that's really been catching on and getting a lot of attention. And we created some around e-bike usage, and people love them, like little short form, easy shareable videos. And they could be on a new piece of infrastructure that you have, like if you have a new bike lane or a new thing like that. But yeah, so I that is definitely first. So first, yes, I'd love to come to the education subcommittee. That is a perfect fit. Yeah, and like I said, we have an amazing company that puts together videos for us. And that is something that absolutely can be done for sure. That's super helpful. Do you guys have any new infrastructure that people are like, what's this? Like bike lanes or roundabouts or road diets where they're like, what is this thing that you did or want to do, and get some pushback about that?
Yeah, hey,
I
Amy,
see
it's
heads
Greg.
nodding. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so we have had, over the past few years, we've had some infrastructure upgrades. We had the green pavement that was installed as part of bike lanes and bike boxes, and motorists and pedestrians and cyclists alike, unknowing how to operate and how to navigate through them. And we do have roundabout projects that are upcoming, and we had public meetings, and there was some questions about roundabouts, and obviously not one roundabout is the same. So some examples are not like others, so there's some confusion, and just some, I don't want to say misinformation, but at least just not
Oh,
understanding
yes.
how it operates. And I think the biggest thing with this commission is we're not, these are tried and true data backed decision making that, that other municipalities have used and other states have used. And, having Watch from ECT, as a backing for this, and having those education materials, not reinventing the wheel, but,
Exactly.
that have worked in other municipalities, and trying to now move that into Norwalk, and trying to help translate, the more technical aspect of it, and make it more for the public to understand why it's being done, how it makes it safer, and seeing the benefits of it. And that's why having the Bike Walk Commission kind of heading the education proponent of the three E's,
Hmm.
the enforcement, engineering, and education. That's why having your help, and promoting the educational materials, and helping them direct them in the right direction is why we wanted you to kind of be a part of this.
Yes, yeah, I do want to get to Becca, but while we're on this, this is a thing that we see in a lot of towns, and there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of opposition because people are afraid of change and they don't understand why something is important. Like they don't see the benefit of it. They don't know the information. They don't know how, they're afraid to use something new. So we have already made, and like you said, you nailed it. Our specialty is taking kind of technical ideas and distilling them down to very simple ways that the public can understand. So, pictures and not, fancy language and nothing technical, but, this is a benefit and here's why. And we have a dispelling roundabout myths, benefits of roundabouts, and a how to use a roundabout flyer that we've already created. Is your roundabout a single lane or a mixed one with the two-lane entrances? Like, any of the roundabouts, do you have any right now? And are
Well,
they just,
we don't have any right now.
they're
All of
not
our
made
roundabouts
yet?
are
Okay,
under
they're gonna,
design right
okay.
now. So I can say the one that we did, we are proposing one is a single lane.
Yeah, probably. I think the
And
DOT prefers that. Yeah.
yeah, the others, the others are still in design, so it's still very early in that process. So, but yeah, we're looking at single lane, and obviously all roundabouts need to go through the roundabout committee at DOT,
Yeah.
regardless, for design process. But we're, really looking at just the public outreach
Yeah.
portion of the roundabout during the planning and design stage, so that folks can better understand, and also how they differ from signals, and how traffic will flow, because there were a lot of concerns about the queue length, and how that was going to back
Hmm.
vehicles up, and it's going to be longer than a signal. And I think just trying to translate that easy for, like you said, like easier for residents to understand how
Yeah.
roundabouts work, and not only just roundabouts specifically, but you had talked about concurrent signals with, lead pedestrian intervals, how those work. When, when a pedestrian hits the button, what the benefits of bike lanes are, what the benefits of sidewalks are, and, sidewalk ramps, and a lot of the infrastructure that we're installing. We have our complete streets design guide and legislation that was approved over the last year. So, we're looking to, move that and accelerate that forward, across the city holistically. So that's why we need the education proponent to keep up with the infrastructure that we are installing. We had talked about it during our meeting. We installed, over 12 miles of sidewalks this year. So we're looking to keep moving that needle forward and keep that up, along with all our other infrastructure that we're installing throughout the city. So
Yeah.
we just need
And
the education to keep up with it.
yeah, I love hearing that you're ahead of the game, because I think part of one of our goals is if we can get ahead of the construction or even the proposal to the community, and we can educate people and dispel those myths and give people the correct information early on. The idea is that maybe we can reduce some of that pushback of people saying, I don't want this, not in my backyard kind of thing. So you're perfectly positioned if you're thinking about doing things like, and Jim mentioned that as well, putting in more roundabouts, which are just so awesome for so many reasons, safety and flow of traffic and everything else. But getting ahead of, actually, before you get out there and you want to start doing something, engaging people ahead of that and saying, these are the facts about them, these are the benefits about them, and try to get people on board early, before you start to make some of those changes to their streets. And then they're like, what are you doing in my street? And I hate it. Becca, you have some thoughts?
Thanks for joining us. I was particularly curious about if Watch Me CT has been supporting any motorist education initiatives, whether in driver's ed or in remedial programs when people have gotten a ticket. Because I think the thing that we're sort of all dancing around, right, is like, when you are driving a car, it is your job to not kill people.
Yeah.
And I feel I am personally frustrated by the feeling that blatant statement is sometimes not just like taken head on, right? And it's not just like taken as gospel that, when you are driving, it is your job to not kill people. It is not a pedestrian's job to stay out of your way. It is your job to not kill them.
Yes, absolutely.
And so
yes.
I'm wondering what efforts of yours are sort of supporting that, because the thing that we have been discussing is whether the Bike Walk Commission here could contribute to driver's ed in our high schools in any way, whether it's just being like, there will be bike riders on the streets. They get 3 feet because we got to teach them young.
Yeah. So most of our education is aimed at drivers because they are the ones with the most responsibility. So that's the majority of our education. So right now we've created like a bike lane brochure, but it's really aimed at drivers. How do you drive near a bike lane? How do you cross into a bike lane? And now we're working on if you're a new cyclist, how to use a bike lane. But we started with what drivers need to know. So I have a lot, there's a lot of things we're doing around that. We have a huge problem in our state, and I'm on the Vision Zero Council, and we bring it up every meeting, and we're trying to work through, how we used to have driver's ed in schools, and it was available to everybody and it was free, and now it's privatized and it costs $1,000, and there's equity issues, there's fairness issues, there's access issues. You've got people who can now kind of just do a thing online, and we're not even sure that they're fully engaged and they're learning things. So we are not alone. One of the things that we do is we are aligned with many other groups and agencies. We work closely with the DMV. We work closely with the Vision Zero Council, with the Bike Ped Advisory Board. Many people who care about this. It's not just us. And I think that's part of a larger movement of tackling our driver's ed. When I first started this, I started real small. I actually went out and did train the trainers to driving ed schools and got their instructors together and did a whole hour-long class on what is bike ped safety and why do we care about it and what's the infrastructure related to that. And I learned a lot. I learned that they didn't know things, basic things like what shark's teeth were. And I was like, you teaching this, how do you not know what this is? And so from that, and because it's so huge, and there's so many driving schools and there's so many people, like it just, a one person can't retrain them all. So we need to dial it back. We need to we're looking at the curriculum, at the test. And we are part of having instituted like creating a video that people have to watch when they renew their license about that includes bike ped safety and driving safely around those. We do a lot of education for drivers. We even do, some of it is, what you should do. And then a lot of it is, these are people trying to get somewhere. So like our current campaign is called Go Shoes, and it's about the people behind the deaths. These are not numbers, these are families, these are people, and trying to humanize other people on the road. But as I'm all sure you're all well aware, we're in a difficult culture right now. People. Oh God, why do we have to be reminding people to not hurt each other? Like, why do we have to remind people that they should care about other people on the road? But that's kind of where we are. And we are thinking about that. We want to slow cars. So what we do is a little bit of, okay, let's make a handout or a social media tile about slowing down. But then let's also go out and educate people about what is traffic calming and what are the different things besides speed bumps you can do that's traffic calming, and why do we design streets that encourage slower speeds? And then we are doing a little bit of police work, like we've done officer training. We got out of it during COVID. We're coming back to it, and getting officers to care about enforcement and getting them to care about why do we care? Why do we enforce these laws? Why do we have like a crosswalk, plainclothes activity? Because there's a crosswalk where people are just not ever stopping. So you got to hit this huge issue from many, many different angles and be sure that we do not think this is the responsibility of the person walking who's just trying to get somewhere to be a better walker. That is not what we do. We are looking at this as a holistic issue that in the end, it's up to drivers, but it's also up to the designers to create a situation that causes people to make better driving decisions by default and not just telling them, slow down, slow down, slow down. Let's make a road that makes them go slower.
Absolutely. I mean, that was one of the things that I said when I testified in favor of our complete streets ordinance, right? Is that infrastructure influences behavior.
It does. It's the number one way to do it. Yep.
The other thing I wanted to bring up in regards to what you've presented to us is that one of our main goals that we'll get to later in our meeting that I am sort of the captain of this year is assessing our current bike ped master plan, which is from 2012. So part of that is going to be a massive bike walk audit, because I've basically made an itemized list of every single improvement that has been requested on our tier 1 corridors, because we have the sentences, we have what TMP's done, we have what percentage is done, but nowhere can I see, on Strawberry Hill, we've added this wayfinding, we've added this thing, so this is something that potentially we could all work on together. And I think Greg has more to say about it.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Love it. Hi, Greg.
No, I was just gonna, you had talked about, a lot of, what we want to incorporate the driver training too, and we had talked about it, about distracted driving as well. That's a big thing. I mean, Jim and myself have been victims of distracted driving, where others have hit our vehicles in the past few months. They were not paying attention while they were driving. So that's another thing on top of the traffic calming and why it's important to slow vehicular speed, but also to pay attention while you're driving. Norwalk over the last month, unfortunately, has seen some fatalities and some severe crashes on our roads. I think across Connecticut, CT Insider just came out with an article. I'm sure you saw that on January 1st, where vehicular deaths of drivers and passengers are lower than what it's been in the past 5 years. But unfortunately, pedestrian fatalities and bicyclist fatalities are up this year. So we're seeing an uptick in that for fatalities. So, interesting to see, we want to, talk with UConn and see, get some more, granular data on what they've seen across and what, what the serious injuries have looked like as opposed to fatalities, because those are also, serious injuries also are not something that we want to see across the state, especially in Norwalk, especially. So, it takes a combined effort. So we're hopeful to get that data narrowed, but just it's an interesting article to, if you look at it in the CT Insider for the bike walk commissioners. If you want to reference it.
We've made a lot of strides to protect people in vehicles, but we've made absolutely no changes that protect people on the outside, and especially we've gone the opposite way, which is to build bigger cars with wider, taller front ends, that the way that they strike people are more likely to kill them than ever before. So, I mean, there's layers upon layers of issues that need to be dealt with. But you're right, distraction, impairment, like these are all things that are in our wheelhouse because they have to be, because it's all goes hand in hand. But yeah, we build a huge cars that have infotainment systems that you have to look at to do what you need to do. And I'm not talking like you're watching a movie. I'm talking like you're just putting on your podcast or whatever, and you're not looking, and now you're driving this even deadlier car than ever before. Like a sedan isn't going to cause the same damage at certain speeds, and yeah. So absolutely, these are all really important topics. So I'm taking notes on the side here to kind of remember some of these. I know you mentioned distraction. It's a tough one. Just drive, people.
Amy, we do have a member of the public with a question for you.
Excellent.
I love it. It even popped up with an unmute. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Wonderful. My name is Nor. I walk a lot in Norwalk. I love the improvements that Norwalk has done to the sidewalks. They're amazing. We don't have a method of enforcing street cleanup. So after this snowstorm, my son pointed out today he can't walk home from the school. I've walked by Fox Run. I've walked by Brian McMahon. I've walked by Norwalk High. None of them have cleaned up their sidewalks. And that means that kids that live a quarter mile from the school are walking in the street, and there's no recourse. I went to a university where it snowed every day, and we were charged by the foot if it was not cleaned up around our property. So as a college student that was poor, I made sure I was up shoveling in the morning. And because I couldn't afford paying $75 to clean my $75 property, or my 70-foot property. I don't see that happening. I literally walked by McDonald's across from Costco, and a week later, their sidewalks are not cleaned. And it's forcing people to walk in the street. I've reached out to McDonald's corporate. They've done nothing. And if you drive down Route 1, where you have a lot of people that rely on sidewalks to get to and from their job, this is, again, going back to an equity thing. It's a privilege that I have a car. I don't have to worry about using a sidewalk to get to and from work, but people that do cannot get to and from work safely. And to me, that is not what we built these sidewalks to do. Also, I love the social media outreach. That's why I joined this call, but you're reaching out to the wrong audience. And I don't know how we change that audience in social media, because if you look at social media posts about sidewalks and about bike, there's a lot of toxic mentality of these people should not even be on the road. I, as a pedestrian, shouldn't be on the road. And that sort of I literally last night walked by McDonald's and had somebody within arm's reach of me turning into me when I was in the crosswalk. I walked over to their car because they were a white man and I'm a white woman. I felt comfortable doing that. I yelled at them and they said, what are you complaining about? I didn't hit you. And it's, well, If I'm in the crosswalk, maybe you should wait for me to leave the crosswalk before you turn into me. So I don't know how we educate people. I have a 16-year-old. I'm not impressed with the driver's education program in Connecticut. So I'm literally living through it and educating him myself and reaching out to, like, I know the German education system for driver's ed is very aggressive and thorough, and I'm literally teaching him those methods rather than the methods that we have in Connecticut, which is basically pass a written exam at 80% and then drive around the block and you get your driver's license. And that's frightening. It's not, we have a lot of toxic mentality that's unsafe for the people that need to use these sidewalks and need to use these bike paths. People don't understand why bicyclists don't stop necessarily at stop signs. That needs to be addressed. If you're clipped in as a bicyclist, you can't stop. You're balancing on an inch tire. And that sort of thing of, well, when you see a bicyclist, let them roll through the intersection because they can't stop. And the burden of them to stop, unclip, and then reclip in versus you just waiting 5 seconds for them to go through means that they can get out of your way faster. And those are things I don't know how you reach out to the people that need this education other than giving them tickets and then making them go and sit at a DMV video and look at the DMV video. I don't know, but that's my 2 cents. I'll stop.
You raised so many good points. Do you guys have we have in Hartford the problem with when they plow the snow, it just collects at the intersections and blocks the ramps so that, like, if you were in any kind of a wheelchair, you have a kid in a stroller, you can't get up and down, you can't access the sidewalk, you have to step out into the road. A lot of our cities have kids, like you said, walking to school, and what are those routes like? And we are connected with the Safe Routes to School program, and we could bring them in on this stuff as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't have the answer. We do more than just social media, but you're right. It's very hard some of that is selected audience unless we're paying to get it in front of other people. We're also on the TV, we're on digital ads, we're on bus tails, we're at radio, we're at gas station radio, but it's a drop in the bucket of the people who need to hear the message for sure. So we're just trying to tackle it from multiple angles, but that is the one hardest thing of our job, is how do we get the people to hear it who need to hear it. The other thing too, though, about behavior is the way that we try to kind of think about it is like that there's groups of people, right? So there's the people that are like us, that are always thinking like, I'm going to be safe when I'm driving and I don't want to kill anybody. And then there's people who are like, bicyclists don't belong on the road. The streets are for cars. The kind of comments you're talking about, like when I think one of the towns wanted to put in bus stops, and I was so disgusted with the comments about the bus shelters, for people who need a place to stand while they're waiting for their bus, and the comments from people were horrifying. But there's all these people in the middle that I don't know that we're going to change the real jerks. I don't know that we're going to get somebody who thinks that bicyclists deserve to be run off the road. We're going to get that person to be a better person. That's a heavy lift. But I feel like there's a lot of people in the middle that would do better if they knew better. That if they understood that bikes belong on roads, and that, if they understood some of these, if they thought about it for a second, and we can maybe get some of those people in the middle to behave better. Maybe eventually we get to a point where most people are respectful. But I've heard crazy stories. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I have a friend who somebody purposely ran into her while she was walking in a parking lot. So, I mean, we're up against a lot, but more and more there's groups of people who care about this and want to try to move the needle on this. And I appreciate all your points and your frustrations for sure. It feels like Sisyphus sometimes trying to trying to deal with people. But I appreciate that. I took some notes too from your comments.
Thank you so much, Amy. I have one last quick question for you, which is about the material, and you kind of covered it in your last answer here about the formats that you provide information on, whether it's digital, print, video. You also said news, radio, those sorts of things. I was curious if I think you mentioned this already, but you don't do sort of interactive in-person community events at all, or
We do some.
some?
We're a team of two, so we
Okay.
don't do a lot, but we come down to Norwalk every year and do like a bicycle helmet fitting and giveaway. Like we've done that for the last few years.
Right.
So we will come down and do education. We also will can connect you with people who do things that we don't do, like Safe Routes to Schools will actually come to your school and do a presentation for a whole, like, a grade or something like that. So we can find other people who can do the things that we can do. We do come and do tabling and we've done crosswalk activity. We've done a bunch of different things. So it all depends on what you want and what one or two people can do. Or do we just assist you as you do it? Do we assist other agents, other people within your town, other groups that we can get them involved too? How do we all come together on this? Because I'm not going to fix it by just, being a figurehead talking to people, but I definitely have access to a lot of resources and connections that we can bring to you. But yes, we'll absolutely come down to Norwalk and hang out with you guys and do some activities.
Thank you so much. No, I appreciate that. And I think your, presence and connections are really valuable. So I appreciate you joining and speaking tonight as well. I thought of one more last thing, and I know we'll cover this in our strategic plan that we'll review on our agenda tonight. But another goal of ours is to provide this information, in these different formats, but also in different languages. We're really trying to support English and Spanish versions of materials that we're sharing and circulating online, whether it's, print, digital, or even video. Is that something that you're also doing? I know
We
we have
do have a
resources.
lot of stuff in English and Spanish. The video's not so much yet. But we could do that. We could absolutely do that. But we haven't done that yet. But we do create, like, a lot of our things will be in English and in Spanish. And we even created a really basic document that you don't need any language at all. It's about crossing, and it was kind of geared towards maybe people with no education at all, just to be like showing them, like, pictorially, like what to we were thinking when we created it, we had in mind the unhoused population in Waterbury. Waterbury had these terrible numbers of deaths. So we came up with, like, no matter what language you speak or what, like, your level of education is, like, you can see, like, the yes, like, this is what you should do, and the no, what you shouldn't do. That one was aimed at pedestrians, which is not something that we normally do, but we were tackling it from many angles in Waterbury because they had 10% of all the road deaths last year. Pedestrian deaths were Waterbury deaths. So yes, we are, and we can get things translated into other languages if you have another kind of a population that's non-Spanish speaking or English speaking that you would want. We are connected to a hospital with a huge translation abilities. So we do want to make sure that we're not excluding anybody based on that.
The other big one in
Chris,
Norwalk is Station Creole.
Haitian, yeah. I almost said that one, but I didn't know for sure. But yeah, I'm gonna write that down. Yeah, because we do. There's a lot of folks. We're one of the states where we welcome immigrants and refugees, and so we have a lot of people with various languages, and we do care about them being safe as well. Christina, I don't want to leave you hanging.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I just heard so many, similarities between what you do at Watch From ECT and what we're striving to do here at the Bike Walk Commission. I even looked it up, and we both started in 2017, the Bike Walk Commission and Watch For Me CT, or CT started in 2017. And I heard you talking about, the helmet giveaways and the safety equipment giveaways, which is something that we do also, and the going into schools for educational purposes, and even the only having two people doing it, because that's often the number of commissioners we can get to an event. And so, in the list of, all of the assistance and resources you said that you guys could provide, I wondered if you would be interested in doing something in tandem, like at a school event, and maybe by our forces combined, we'd like double our ranks essentially, and, be able to engage with, more students or whoever, the audience may be. It might just be, a broader appeal.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really where the magic happens is when we all connect the all of the resources, because there's so many of us that we're teams of one and two, and or volunteer, all people, you're not getting paid for your your volunteer work as an advocate. So yeah, that's sort of the idea is, and if we can't do it directly, which we can do a lot directly, but if we can't, we can find the people who can, and we will support and come down and be a part of things as well. But yeah, that we've got to join forces and
Okay,
put our heads
awesome.
together. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Amy, we have one last question, I believe, from the public for you.
Okay.
Well, good evening, Bike Walk Commission and Amy. Thanks for joining. This is my first time joining. My name is Morris Red. I'm at 16 Quaker Road in Norwalk. And I had a couple things really quick. So one thing I was thinking about is in terms of changing the perspective of some drivers, like maybe that middle group again, because sometimes we see a lot of youth in the streets popping willies, and there's nothing happening with them. And I'm never one to want to put youth in jail or ticket them. But however, if we were to address their parents, if law enforcement would want to address their parents and get them, that might stop a few people from disliking bicyclists, because that's what they might equate to bicyclists. Those youth who are in the middle of the street popping willies, riding down Connecticut Avenue, So just something to think about there. And then in terms of promoting bicycle and walking safety, I think it's idea to do the social media, but at the same time, maybe an activity in addition to the bicycle helmet giveaways and school activities, perhaps. And this is a personal plug. I'll say that I'm putting together a 5K bike walk in honor of Gregory Burnett. And I think if we get people participating in that, and as years go on and it grows, that's an opportunity also to promote bicycle and walking safety. Maybe on the T-shirts, and then it would be a media frenzy, hopefully, that all the channels will pick up, and then so now we get free advertisement about stopping people from hitting bicyclists. I'm a bicyclist, and sometimes I feel feared when I'm riding around. So those my two
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, we definitely, we go to events to, if you have an event, you want us to come down and table, we give out bike lights, we give out helmets, we can have information for folks. We do engaging parents around bicycles is super important. One of the things that we had a huge spike in bicyclist deaths in Connecticut this year, highest since 2016. And so we've been doing a lot of we're starting to now, because e-bikes are kind of a new thing, talking to parents. Is your kid ready? Like, is your 12-year-old who's like never been on a bike, like, what do we need to know? What do they need to know? We need to tell them they need to have a helmet, like they need to know where to ride, etc. So kind of taking that chance. We did a lot of, like, before Christmas, like Black Friday, we did some videos where we're like, this is what you need to know if you're buying your kid an e-bike for Christmas. Like, talk to them about this and this. So yeah, I think in talking with parents, maybe the rise in e-bikes will help with the anti-bike culture because more people are going to are on bikes. More people are riding. More people have access to doing it, and the kids are excited about it, and they're popping up at school. So we've been doing some education around how to do that safely, how to know what you're buying, to be a consumer, like an educated consumer about what you're purchasing, and like knowing what the wattage is, and buying a legal bike for your child under 16. They shouldn't be on a class 3 or something like that. So yeah, so this is all stuff that we've already got in motion, that if you have issues with that in your town, or you want to engage parents and kids around safe bicycling, we can definitely do that. Well, I'm going to hang around on the call, and I want to, hear your conversations, the things that come up, and if there's anything else that you want to make sure I know, feel free to call me out or send me an email after this. But I definitely want to come back, and maybe the education subcommittee, maybe we can have a subgroup from this or the education committee that actually just has a call one-on-one with us and kind of talks about what maybe a good first couple steps might be. What are you most interested in? What would be most helpful to you? And we could go from there. So this is just the start of the conversation.
Thank you again, Amy. Okay, I will move us along then to our next agenda item here. We are at the acceptance of our minutes from our December 1st meeting. Can I entertain a motion to approve those minutes?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Christina. I see Manny has seconded. All in favor? Okay, and so approved. Thank you. Okay, our next item here, so old business, the finalization and approval of our 2026, not 2016. Oh my goodness. Strategic plan here. I will share my screen. If it works. Okay. Can everyone see this okay? Great. Yep. So I put together this Google Doc of our strategic plan. This was what we reviewed in our December meeting. It's really built on what our strategic plan was in 2025, which was built on the 2024, and so on and so forth. It has not changed drastically with the minor tweaks and edits we talked about in our last meeting. So the goal today is to not so much go into an another in-depth review, but to look over each goal and, approve the ownership of each goal and make sure it aligns with our commission as a whole. So my plan is to just quickly walk through each goal, do a brief overview, and then, at the very end, if everything looks good, speak up if there are changes you want to see made, but we'll approve this and get it in action for this year. So I broke this down into 5 categories. I think it's aligned with last year's categories as well. They're very much similar. The first and most prominent one here is our education and safety, which again, thank you for joining. Amy, if you have any input on our goals here or have anything to say, please feel free to speak up. Our first goal here is to host a safe cycling course in English and Spanish. So this was something we kickstarted last year, and we were able to do it with CT State College. We were able to work with Chaz, a league certified instructor, to do 2 cycling courses, and with the support of the Sound Cyclists Club, we were able to have attendees in a presentation style and a workshop. I'm hoping to do that again and expand on our reach between students and either Norwalk Public School and elementary school elements, but really to also tap into partnerships with local bike shops. And we talked about furthering that to extend to the Norwalk Community Health Center. So the owners I have on here are myself, Brian, Christina, and Elizabeth. The goal for these courses would be to plan them by April and to have them in May and October with between 8 and 10 attendees. And again, really propelling, trying to have this course available in English and in Spanish. Any comments or suggestions on this goal?
I think that was good.
Okay. Another part of this goal is to certify another league cycling instructor so that we can continue our commission having league certified instructors, but also enable maybe members of the public or of our partners to have more bike league certified instructor access. Chaz Foster is one of our contributors already. Brian, in our last meeting, volunteered to get trained, and I appreciate you doing that. Jalea Green with the Norwalk Health Department was certified last year. So that gave us another certified instructor. And then we have a previous commissioner, Christine Bisegli, who is also a league certified instructor and willing to help as needed. So this is another goal for this year, is to have another certified instructor registered within the city of Norwalk. Okay. Moving along, education campaign on roads and infrastructure. Amy, I know you talked on this a little bit. We're aiming to have those campaigns that we align with CMP and Watch for Me CT. I think I have you in here already, which is great, to continue to have that educational campaign online, whether it's online or in person or print or whatever media, we're able to present this information and connect with the public, but definitely the focus being educational outreach. Owners on this, I have Emily, Jalea, Christina, and Rebecca. Sorry, Becca.
Making me sound all fancy. I just want to lift up what you emphasized, right? Because I was just talking to somebody about an event that I would have attended in Norwalk, but I didn't know about it because I am on zero social media. So just making sure that we're continuing to find those alternative ways to reach people, whether it's QR codes at coffee shops or, getting our kids to post in their Discords or whatever it is.
It's a very good point, and I'm glad you mentioned it because I think further down you'll see we're going to improve our communication and outreach, and that's a big part of it, is having our email and web page for people who may not be on social media or giving it up. So it's definitely, I think that's a really good point too. So having different channels of communication will be important as well. Okay. That all sounds good. I'll continue on. I think that's right here, right below it. So perfect. Increase positive community engagement. Oh, did someone say something?
Yeah, a comment on the measure for the previous goal.
Oh, thank you.
So part of that second clause, measurable awareness increase among Norwalk residents. I think that's ambiguous. I'm not too sure what would be a way to make that less ambiguous. But unless you can think of something like soon, because I know you want to get this finalized soon, it might be better to just leave the measure as education campaign launched.
I agree with that. Measurable awareness. I'm trying to remember why that was in there, if there was a reason for that. But all I can think is below, we have a percentage increase based on our current standings for followers. Oh, attendees. Okay, I think you're right, Nick. I think if that sounds good to everyone, I'll just remove this piece and have educational campaign launched and completed. Something like that. and completed throughout 2026? Is that still too vague, or is that a little more?
I think that works.
Okay. Okay. Communication and outreach. So positive community engagement. I have myself, Julia, Elizabeth, and Rebecca. I'm gonna rewrite these to Becca because I'm starting to confuse me. I hope, is that okay, Becca, if I have that as your name? Do you prefer that?
Becca is great.
Okay, thank you.
Rebecca means I'm in trouble.
Perfect. So kind of like what Nick was just saying about the other measurement. So for this one, I have a goal of 15% increase in engagement, being subscribers, followers, event and attendees by the end of the year, and all of our educational content being bilingual. But for this one too, I did write down kind of our targets, where we're starting and where we want to be. We're for Facebook, Instagram, our email newsletter, and then I would love to work with Elizabeth on building a website that we can start kind of tracking and having a more ease of, subscribers and a consolidated place for all our information. So that's kind of part of this goal here. But this is really to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on an organized fashion of our online presence here. Okay, if that all sounds good, moving on to the next one, which is really develop and maintain bilingual content. We spoke in our last meeting. I know the city of Norwalk has resources. I'm really glad to hear, Amy, you also have resources that we can use, and we do have commissioners who are bilingual and able to, assist as needed. So I have this as a set goal to continue doing this for the entirety of the year, or the entirety of our community-facing materials that we're aiming to print. Okay. Moving on to our next category of infrastructure and accessibility, quarterly strategic coordination with TMP. My goal, I know we didn't meet all of our quarterly meetings last year. The goal again this year is to have those quarterly meetings with our 3 commissioners. So the timeline here, Greg, and I would love your opinion on this too. I've set it for kind of the start of each quarter as opposed to the end of each quarter. So having the first one this month, January, May, August, and then December being, the very last.
Yeah, that's fine. As long as we set it, in advance, our schedules are rapidly booking up. So even for January, so the sooner we get that on the books for each quarter, the better.
Okay, and I'm realizing maybe this one should be November and not December. Okay. Moving along, this review, update, and promote the city's pedestrian and bikeway transportation master plan. Becca, if that looks good to you, I made you and Christina owners on this one.
Yep, and she and I have sidebarred on this.
Yeah, we're cooking.
We're just gonna start updating. Yep, we're getting ready.
Amazing, thank you.
And we're gonna talk to Jody about getting some volunteers from sustainability as well.
Perfect. I know Jody may be on this call too, and I'm excited to have her, participation with the Bike Walk Commission, but also reversing. I know she just started her sustainability task force and reached out about having a commissioner on board. So maybe I owe her a response to that as well. Hi, Jody. Thanks for joining tonight. Okay. On that note, moving on, walking and biking events and community engagement, providing bike valet services at community events. I have on this Nick, Manny, Christina, Elizabeth, Rebecca. Oh my Lord, Becca. Okay. Ongoing throughout 2026, looking to get at least 10 users per event, expand to 5+ events in 2026. The goal exceeded in our 2025. I'm going to remove that because that was a reference point. So it's really just to have at least 5 events with Bike Valet this year to sound reasonable and not to over estimate our time and availability. Target events, 1 per taxing district. There shouldn't be a question mark there.
I
have
literally
these.
just added that as a proposal
because
it helps us with geographic diversity.
Yes,
Right?
I
Because one
agree.
of the things we discussed is making sure we hit different areas in Norwalk and not just events on the green or Vets Park, etc.
I agree.
So I thought that would be a good way to anchor it as 1 per taxing district.
I think that's great. All I'm going to do is remove the question mark because I think that is a really good goal to have. I agree. And I know we talked a lot about that in our last meeting, and I thought that was a great idea. Perfect. And so the few I put in here were ones that we've talked about. And oh, perfect. I see you put a note in here too. If we can't exactly do this ourselves for the Oyster Festival because it is an enormous event, it's at least working with the Seaport Association and supporting their efforts in making sure they're accommodating, cyclists and pedestrians and ways to accommodate, bike parking and their efforts. And we could, use city resources or other means to make that available.
Yep, I've made contact there. They're down to PSA with us. They want to hear from us in March.
Excellent.
That's the kind of timeline they're on.
Perfect. Elizabeth, go ahead.
I was just curious for each of these events, how many people are generally staffing them? Or like how many people from the commission?
That is a great question, and it really depends on the availability. Nick put together a really good slide presentation on how to run the Bike Valet and use volunteers, which we do have, and I'm very grateful for the volunteers that assist us. Typically, in a best case scenario, depending on how long the event is, we have 2-hour shifts with at least 2 to 3 people manning the tent in the great world, but at least one of those people should always be a commissioner. So yeah, if it's an all-day event, we'll have maybe 10 to 20 people. If it's just a couple hours, maybe 3 to 6, but it can depend on the size of the event.
Okay, great. I'm happy to be involved with this, though for me, my availability sometimes is dependent on childcare. So, like I don't know that I could go to all 5+ events, but certainly can try to make
They're
some happen.
definitely super open. Also,
Okay.
like Nick handles it really well in terms of sending out like a group text with like availability slots and people just reply
Oh,
what they want to do. It's
okay,
totally
awesome.
at your leisure. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, super easy. And if people with partners bring their partners, that's a team right there. Marty and I have held down a lot of valet together last year.
Can you bring wild toddlers? I don't know if anyone wants my toddler around their bikes, but
I'm down. I let
We're
some
open to it.
stickers on my bike at the Earth Day last year.
oh,
If they're biking there, absolutely. But no, absolutely. Yeah, it's very flexible and it's whatever time you have available. But we make it work at the end of the day. And again, I can't express how grateful I am to not only our commissioner volunteers, but our other volunteers who help and support the valet and set it up. And Manny and Nick have done, a great job last year. And I anticipate having another great year this year. Okay. Moving along, engaging underrepresented communities with the bike walk programs. A big one we did last year was filling in the blanks. Manny, I give you a lot of the credit there. That couldn't be done without you. And we also every year do the Norwalk Night Out event, and we do helmet giveaway and supplies giveaway, educational giveaways. But I know in our last meeting we talked about expanding our community organizations and the other opportunities to partner with bike shops and kind of collaborating more and even with like the library. So I made a list here I left it open though for a measurement, at least 2 events. I'm not saying that we have to do all of these engagements, but having these as just opportunities or focuses or opportunities to reach out to these other organizations. And then the owners I have on this are Manny, Christina, and Elizabeth.
I wanted on this one, I remember in the last meeting flagging, oh wait, no, I'm sorry. I was talking about, we're not at the one about bilingual materials, or did we already skip past that one?
Oh, for bilingual materials, I think, yeah, I have that up here with the communication
sorry.
and outreach. Oh, go ahead though.
I was gonna ask, I don't know that I'm of any help on the bilingual material creation. I'm happy to be on this later goal, but I don't speak any Spanish, or any other. I speak French, but I don't know that we need our materials to be in French. So I was gonna ask if, unless there's a way that I can help on that beyond like providing translation, I'm happy to help. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure if I'm the best owner of that particular content.
I appreciate that. No, I'll take you off here for this one. But I just want to make sure for like content though, I still have
Yes.
you on the, okay,
Yes.
perfect. Okay,
And I'm happy to be on this goal about reaching underrepresented communities as well.
perfect. Thank you. Okay, Manny, any comments here? Does this make sense as a goal? And I don't want to be over ambitious. I think that's the word I'm looking for in what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think the 2 events is a good, like, if other opportunities open up, I think, we definitely don't need to say no, right? But I think I feel like less sometimes, yeah, I think the 2 is a good place to start and a good place to say, okay, we did 2 at least, like we did some, we moved the dial on where we want to be.
Mhm. Okay, perfect. And then the next big one, walk, bike, roll to school day in October with a May option. Manny, I have you and Julia as main points of owners on this. I upped our participation. I think we should definitely find a way to keep track of all the students we engage with because there were so many. It's hard to know for sure, not only students, but parents and that sort of thing. Maybe we can have like a QR code or a sign-in sheet, but to be able to report on this at the end of the year would be great. And then I know we talked about the May event as well because it kind of aligns with May is Bike Month and Bike to Work Week. But if that sounds good to you.
I saw the bike bus part too. I think that's kind of
Oh,
maybe I'll talk
yeah.
about this. No, I think that's good. I think we should leave that there.
Okay.
The only thing I was gonna say was I had an idea, but I just don't know this is the idea portion of the meeting. So, but I'm glad. I guess I'm glad the bike bus part.
Okay. I actually I didn't realize that got in there, but I'm glad you have that there. I know we talked about it in our last meeting, but establishing the bike bus routes. Yeah, okay, perfect. If that sounds good to you, I'm all on board.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Bike to Work Week, we did that last year. For April is prepare in April for May Bike Month and Bike to Work Week. Participation of at least 50 commuters. Oh, that's what I kind of integrated based on our conversation in December is that commuter public transportation. So working with the like transit hubs and metro stations for promotion and collaboration. I think we did a great job of that this past year with Becca and the South Norwalk station and businesses around there too. So it kind of expands beyond just biking to work, but also commuting to work via public transportation. Oh. Okay, moving along, recognition, accountability, and reporting. Another goal of ours here for this year is to achieve the bike-friendly community bronze status. So the application is due by June 30th, 2026. On this, I have Brian, Nick, and Becca.
I feel like my resources are potentially better channeled on other goals, but I'm happy to help with this one if it needs a strong assist.
Okay.
Do you guys
And-
have a bike-friendly community designation already? Have you ever applied?
We have, and we got a report card. We have an honorable mention. So
Honorable
we,
mention?
yes, in 2023, oh dear, in 2023, we did get a report card. And so we had actions to take. Part of it was integrated into our strategic plan last year, and I think the prior year as well. But we had the application from when it was completed, and there's a few, I guess, freshened pieces of data that we need to work with TMP on updating, but a lot of it should be similar to what we submitted before. So the goal would be, to work our way up from honorable mention to bronze status. And then Becca, to your point, so the owners are really just who we're having kind of own these tasks and hold accountability. It doesn't mean that more people won't work on it, but if called upon, this is who I'm hoping to push this project forward. I'm again happy to be on here, but if you're, do you feel okay being an owner of this, or are you thinking you want something else?
I think I'd like to drop this one and maybe pick up something else.
Okay. I know Jody was also really interested in doing this. Is there someone else on the commission that wants to be a part of this application or kind of hold accountable getting this application completed?
I do suppose now that you say that, if I'm sort of liaising between us and sustainability, maybe it should be me.
I'm gonna leave you on there, and then I'm happy to tap in as needed. I have Greg on there too, and I'm hoping Nell, will chip
Awesome.
in as well. So I'll keep you on there. Okay, great. Okay. Last little check-in. So I have myself as an owner here to keep our quarterly strategic plan progress check-in. So after we, vote and approve on it today, I will make sure to have as agenda items in our March, June, September, and December meetings to make sure, we're tracking everything, it's going to plan. If amendments are needed, we'll bring those up. And then the other goal I have here is to do an annual report to the mayor and common council. A quick update on that too. I did get an email from Nell about some accomplishments that we want to send to her from last year. So it'll be a quick, synopsis of what we achieved last year from TMP as the Bike Walk Commission. And then we'll have the presentation at the end of this year. If that sounds good. Okay, and then that is the last one here. So ideally, our plan is finalized and presented this month, and then our next review will be in March. But if this sounds good to all our commissioners, are there any edits or additions that we want to see on this strategic plan? Or can I entertain a motion to vote this into effect?
I will so move.
Thank you, Becca. Can I have a second? Manny, thank you. All in favor? Excellent. And so it shall be. Thank you all. Okay. Next on our agenda, follow-up on 2026 events and bike valet planning. I know we covered that a little bit when we looked at the events for bike valet, and I really like the idea of having one per taxing district. On that note, I think with this agenda item, I wanted to bring up again the first event coming up in April, which is the Norwalk Earth Day Festival. It is officially on Saturday, April 25th, and there is a steering committee meeting on January 15th, which is a Thursday at noon. And so I am curious if there are any commissioners interested in joining the steering committee. Each year, the Earth Day Festival hosts walks and bike rides to the green in Norwalk. And so part of joining the steering committee would be offering support in collaborating and as the Bike Walk Commission kind of organizing and promoting those walks and rides. And then ideally having the bike valet available to Earth Day Festival attendees at the event on Saturday, April 25th. Are there any commissioners planning on attending the Earth Day Festival?
I can be there and definitely be part of the bike valet for sure. And can coordinate when it comes to promotion and things along those lines. I'm quite close to the green as well, so happy to put in a nice long shift there at the beginning of spring.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Christina. Anyone else?
My employment situation does not allow me to know what I'm doing in April yet, but if I'm free, I'll be there.
I plan to I try to really put this on my calendar and be there to participate. So you can count me in unless something changes drastically. But I think, I would want to be there.
Thank you, Manny. Okay, perfect. Christina and Manny, if you're both okay with it, I may connect you with Tracy Craighead, who is leading up the steering committee, so that she can reach out to you for next steps and kind of get planning. And I will be, able to support as needed and with the walks and everything. I've done it in prior years, so I'm happy to, help where I can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. That sums up our old business. Moving on to new business. I think there is no new business. Moving on to discussion. I have commissioner announcements and future agenda items on here. And this is really to hear from other commissioners if you guys have any announcements for the commission as a whole, or if there are agenda items that you would like to see at our next meeting, on our next meeting.
One agenda item that was brought to my attention was the pedestrian signals at Water and Washington Street, and just like how that all works, and trying to, is there a way to change the timing of those? So maybe just kind of having a chance to talk about that. And then I would also like to add, I think somebody brought it up either in an email or a text or something, but and I believe Nor brought it up as well recently, but just like sidewalks and snow, and like who is responsible for that, and just kind of having that education on like who's in charge of that. Because sometimes I think for me specifically, I know that portion of Gregory and Cemetery where the new development is very difficult to walk because nobody really takes care of it. I don't know what it's like this week. I've been out of town, but I know in the past, and I got back from the train on Sunday and I purposely didn't walk around that area. I avoided that whole portion. And so, yeah, so I think it's just, I'm always, and I'm new to winter weather, so I really don't know how any of this works.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I did think of a few things when Nora did bring that to our attention, like what you just said, who owns what and what do you do? One response just right off the bat is the click and request app, making sure to get photos of it, submit it to the City of Norwalk customer service so that there's record of it. And then, from there, we can continue to kind of track and see what can get done, and then reporting issues, especially with commercial areas that, where their responsibility lies may be not so clear. Just having some sort of record of it is definitely the first step. So the Click and Request app, having that as an agenda item, though, I think is a great idea. And just like you were saying, like maybe having some sort of educational awareness on, who is responsible for what when shoveling sidewalks. And I've definitely run into the same issue around South Norwalk. There are some areas that are just iced over and too dangerous to walk on. And then sections of the NRBT, I know they're working on delegating responsibility there as well. With your first question, or your first point, Manny, was the timing of the pedestrian lights on Water and Washington Street, or where was it again?
Yeah, Washington and Water, like
Okay.
that whole like quad of, I guess not quad, but like that whole intersection.
Right when you get over the bridge.
Yeah.
What was the complaint that you heard?
The
Or was it
complaint I
coming from you or
received
someone
was
else?
that the lights for the traffic are longer than the lights allowing pedestrians to cross the street.
Oh, that's 100% true. Cars definitely get more time than walkers.
Yeah. So
So Manny, if I could just jump in real quick, I would just
Sure.
again, I would defer to the Click and Request app for something like that, because
Okay.
that's the only way something's going to get looked at. We could talk about it on the meeting, but the Click and Request app is the best way, so that there's a record of it, and it
Perfect.
gets distributed to the proper department.
Thank you. No, that's really helpful.
Is there an opportunity, Greg, if it's more than just this intersection, or if people want that for intersections near where they live, is it something where it goes through the Click and Request app? Or is there an opportunity for us to like educate and say, here's this specific timing and it's this way by default. If you want it longer, here's what it would take to get to that point? Or
Yeah, I mean, every signal is different, so it's hard to say. Based on is it concurrent? Does it have LPI that's attached to it? So there's each intersection is different, so it's hard to say it's one size fits all for every single signal out there, what the timing is for each signal. So I'm not, that would be distributed to our signal team, that could look into it further. I also don't know who owns the signal as well, so because that is where State 136 comes in, State Route. Plus, there is Walk Bridge construction going on heavily, so that could also be affected by that. So there's a lot of factors that come into play, for each signal. So I can't say for sure. That's why the Click and Request is the best way, so that each individual intersection could be examined, then it could be directed to the proper person within the city.
okay. Thank you. Great. Any other commissioner announcements or agenda items for our next meeting? Offhand right now, I know we'll ask again before we set up our next agenda. Okay. So the agenda item we had after this was the Commission's safety educational programs and opportunities. I'm happy to share we covered that with Amy at the start of our call. The last item I have here is our staff updates. So opening this up to TMP, the Health Department, Complete Streets, and other project updates.
From TMP's end, there's really no updates. Most of our projects have pretty much stopped, because of the snow and with the shutdown periods. I do have to say there are a few projects that did finish up last week before and after the holidays and the new year. Royton Avenue sidewalks, the extension that goes north of the train station all the way up to Devil's Garden, that was wrapped up. That project, there's still a few odds and ends, but it is still it's substantially completed at this point. And then the Soundview wall east of Cliff Street, and that sidewalk was being poured this week. So that's going to come to a conclusion. But other than that, the rest of the projects have pretty much come to a halt with the snow. So we got a little bit of extended time period. We were lucky to get a little bit extra time, but that's pretty much it for the ongoing projects right now.
Sounds good.
And we're already prepping for next year. So, well, for this year, I should say. So 3 months we have prepared. Hopefully we get some good weather come March so we can start early and hit the ground running.
That sounds good. Thank you, Greg. Okay. That is everything on our agenda. So with that, can I entertain a motion to adjourn? Becca, thank you. Can I get a second? Thank you, Brian. Okay. All in favor? Thank you again, Amy. Have a
Thank you
great
for
night,
having me.
everyone.
I'll be in touch.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, bye.
Cool.
Good night.
Good night.